Hi, I'm Jennifer Kendall, the founder of Acuity Path. I support women entrepreneurs in understanding and transforming their relationship with money, while also mastering the systems and processes to manage it with confidence. I combine deep mindset work with practical money tools so that you can move out of fear and step into clarity and build a future that feels supportive and sustainable. Whether you're watching this from your desk or taking a quiet pause on a busy day, I'm really glad that you're here. In today's video, we're exploring how confidence with money is something you build, not something you're simply born with. And more specifically, how to create a gentle weekly money routine that feels supportive instead of scary. My hope is that this conversation helps you see your money choices with more compassion and feel more grounded and trusting of yourself as you move forward. So let me start with a moment I see often. You open up your banking app, and almost before a single number loads, you close it again. And here's what I want to say about that. You close it not because you don't care, and it's absolutely not because you're irresponsible. It's that something in your body just tightens, tightens at the thought of just looking. Maybe it's a pressure. Maybe it's a feeling of uncertainty. Maybe it's that quiet little voice that whispers, I should be doing better than this by now. If you know that voice, you are not alone. What usually happens next is we tell ourselves that we'll look later, and later becomes next week, and next week becomes next month. And without ever really deciding to, our money slowly turns into something that we avoid instead of something we lead. So, I want today to offer you a different way of thinking about all of this because here's the heart of it. Confidence with money isn't a trait you either have or you don't. It's something you build slowly, gently, in small, safe moments. And one of the best places to start is by building a money routine, one that you actually want to come back to. But before we get to the how, let's talk for a second about what avoidance is really costing us, because I don't think it's what most people assume. Avoidance is sneaky. It rarely looks dramatic. It looks like not checking your account for a few days. And then those few days become a few weeks. It's letting the bookkeeping pile up. It's guessing at your numbers instead of actually knowing them. And the cost of that isn't only financial, it's also emotional. Here's why. When you don't know your numbers, your mind doesn't just leave that space empty, it fills it in. It fills it in with worst case scenarios. And suddenly, everything starts to feel heavier than it actually is. I've come to believe this is the part that most of us miss. Avoidance feels protective, but it isn't. The not knowing is almost always heavier to carry than the numbers themselves would ever be. Think about that for a moment. Whatever you're imagining in the dark, it's usually so much worse than you'd actually find if you just turned on the light. You know, when you see the shadows and your mind goes a little bit crazy and you come up with some interesting facts, but then when you turn on the light and you realize what it was that you saw, that. So here's the gentle shift that I'd love for you to try on. The confident version of you, she doesn't avoid her numbers. She checks them the way she'd check in with a good friend or she'd check in with a client. No judgment, no panic, just presence. And maybe with a little bit of curiosity. Now, you may have heard the phrase money date. And I'll be honest with you, for a lot of women, that sounds like a cheerful name for something that they still dread doing. If that's you, You're not wrong in being a little bit skeptical. So let's set the name aside and let's just talk about what it's actually for. This is not an audit. It's not a performance review, and it's definitely not a moment to measure your worth against your results. What it is a small act of care. It's a weekly check in where you sit with your business and your numbers. You sit without rushing, without spiraling, and without any pressure to fix everything all at once. And what you're really building in those few minutes is familiarity, because familiarity, more than discipline, more than willpower, and more than any clever system, is what quietly turns into confidence over time. So, what you actually do now is build a routine that you'll keep. And here's the thing about routines: if it feels heavy, you will drop it. So we're not aiming for perfect. We're aiming for something light enough that you'll actually want to come back to. Start with the when. Pick a time that will support you, not one that punishes you, not the moment you're already underwater. Maybe it's Friday morning as you close out the week. Maybe it's a Sunday reset or a quiet midweek pause with a really good cup of coffee. For me, it's Mondays. I love the feeling of doing my money date on Monday mornings because it feels like I've set myself up for success for the rest of the week. It also gets a whole bunch of stuff that was piling up because I only do this once a week, and it clears it all off. Then set the scene. Maybe you have a warm drink. Maybe you clear your desk before you start. Maybe you turn on some soft music. This might sound small, but it isn't. What you're doing is gently teaching your nervous system that it's a safe place to be. I usually do a combination of putting on a diffuser or lighting a candle. I tend to really enjoy the candle part because at the end, I can blow it out and it's another signal to myself that we're done. The first version of your money date, I do encourage you to keep it embarrassingly simple. Truly, that's what I'm asking you to do. Maybe all you're doing is checking your balances. Maybe all you want to do is see what came in. Notice while you're looking what comes up. And that is enough at the beginning. You're not trying to solve anything yet. You're just trying to build awareness and show your nervous system that what you're doing is safe. One more thing I want to mention, and something that I think that matters a lot. Pay attention to the questions you ask yourself. Instead of what am I doing wrong, try asking what came in this week? What went out? What feels good here? What needs my attention next? You're looking at the same numbers, but you're looking at them with a completely different nervous system. And then just close with one small decision. Send the invoice. Move a little bit into savings. Follow up on that payment. These are small acts, but it's a good place to start. These small acts will build momentum and remind yourself that paying attention actually leads somewhere. Now, here's what I want you to know about where this goes. Somewhere along the way, usually sooner than you would expect, something starts to shift. This routine stops feeling more like something that you have to do and starts feeling like something that's quietly on your side. You'll notice it in little ways: a little bit less anxiety when you open up your accounts, decisions that will start to come faster and a little clearer, and this growing, almost surprising sense of, oh, I got this. What happens is you're no longer disconnected from your numbers. You're no longer guessing in the dark. You're actually at that point in a relationship with your numbers. What you will find over time is that that money date will expand. What starts out today as just opening up your numbers and taking a look and making one small decision can become your whole process. For me, on Mondays, when I start my money date process, it's complete. I not only look at my numbers, but I make sure everything's recorded in our financial systems. I ask any questions. I follow up with accounts receivable. I do invoicing. I do reconciliations. It doesn't take me any more than an hour to finish off a couple companies and our personal stuff. But afterwards, I feel really good about how I've set myself up for the week. I've now expanded it to put in a little bit more time with my money date because I'm looking at things like emergency funds and investment products and things like that. So your money date can expand as your comfort with money grows and as your needs grow. So before you go, I want to leave you with one last gentle truth. You don't become confident with money by waiting until everything looks perfect. You become confident by showing up while everything is still messy, still unclear, and still a work in progress. That is the real work. Not fixing it all overnight, just choosing week after week not to look away. And every time you sit down for that check in, you're quietly reinforcing something that's very true. The truth is that you can handle this and you're allowed to know what's going on in your business. So here's my invitation, not a to do list, just one small question to sit with this week. What's one small way you could make your money routine feel a little bit more supportive? You don't have to answer it perfectly. In fact, you won't. It will change over time. You just have to be willing to ask the question. Thank you so much for being with me today. Be gentle with yourself and see you next time.